Is there room to negotiate with Hamas, or is this
Not much.
the deal?
You know, with Hamas, we want very simple. We want the hostages back immediately, and we want some good behavior. And, you know, it's pretty simple. You don't get simpler. Think of it. We've signed every country in the Middle East. This was like an impossible thing. It's never been done before.
Today, once again, we are going to dive into one of the most critical issues of our time: Israel, Palestine, the wider Middle East, and the global power games unfolding around it. This time, the so-called ceasefire deal is being celebrated in headlines. But is it really a step toward peace? Or is it yet another carefully designed trap, a political arrangement that strengthens occupation while presenting itself as peace? Let's begin with the most basic truth: any agreement between two parties is meaningful only if both sides are at the table. But in this case, one party, Hamas, and through it the people of Gaza, were never consulted, never invited, never included. So the question is simple: how can you call it a deal for Palestinians when Palestinians had no role in shaping it? Now let's break down the three bright claims of this proposal. Withdrawal of Israeli troops, release of hostages and prisoners, local self-governance. At first glance it sounds reasonable, but the details expose the deception. Israel has promised only a partial withdrawal, not a full exit. A 2-kilometer-wide buffer zone inside Gaza will remain under Israeli control. In plain words, Gaza becomes even smaller, even more confined, even more under surveillance. Then the so-called exchange, hostages for prisoners. Gaza is asked to release every Israeli hostage. In return, Israel will free about 1,500 Palestinians. But remember, there are over 75,000 Palestinians languishing in Israeli prisons. Many of them women, children, and those held without trial. So the math is brutally unequal. Now comes the idea of technocrats running Gaza. It sounds sophisticated. But what does it actually mean? In reality, they would only have the power to manage garbage collection, road repairs, sewage systems, the daily municipal chores. But when it comes to real power, control over natural gas, oil, economic policy, security, international agreements, Palestinians will have no say. Who, then, will have the power? A so-called peace committee chaired by none other than Donald Trump, with Tony Blair as a key figure. In other words, outsiders. Americans and Europeans will rule Gaza from afar, while Palestinians are reduced to caretakers of their own suffering. And let's not forget the military arrangement: foreign troops stationed under US supervision. Soldiers from the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Jordan may be placed inside Gaza. But not Palestinians themselves. Does that sound like sovereignty? Or occupation wearing a new mask? Ask yourself, what is the true purpose of this deal? Is it to end the war and bring justice? Or is it to redraw the map of the Middle East, weaken resistance, and encircle Iran? Because every clause of this plan tilts toward serving the interests of the US and Israel, not Palestinians. Now consider who is applauding this deal: Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey, the UAE, even France and Italy. All lining up to say, yes, this is the way forward. But is this acceptance genuine, or is it driven by fear, pressure, and political self-interest? Because on the streets of Cairo, Istanbul, Jakarta, Islamabad, millions have marched demanding real freedom for Palestine, not this paper arrangement that silences their struggle. And Pakistan? Its leaders thundered in speeches that they would stand shoulder to shoulder with Palestine, even attack Israel if necessary. But when
And this is a peace plan that has not just been accepted by Israel, but it has been applauded by Muslim and Arab countries around the world. It has been applauded by European leaders around the world. Virtually everyone in the world is supportive of this plan.
When the time came, when the deal was presented, they sat smiling beside American and Israeli allies. The contradiction is stark between the promises made to their people and the reality of their compromises. Let's be very clear: if this deal is implemented as drafted, it will not bring lasting peace. It will bring only a fragile pause. The occupation will not end. The resources, the gas fields off Gaza's coast, the land along its beaches, will be stripped away and handed to billionaires and corporations. Some already talk of turning Gaza's seafront into a Mediterranean Riviera. Hotels, resorts, luxury towers, but not for Palestinians. For the elites. For those who profit from war. So where does that leave Hamas? It's a deadly dilemma. If Hamas rejects the deal, it will be branded as the enemy of peace. If it accepts, it risks dissolving its own struggle, its own identity. But how can any organization accept an agreement in which it was never even included? This is why I call it not a peace plan, but a trap plan. It isolates the resistance, legitimizes occupation, and pretends to offer relief while locking Palestinians into a future with no sovereignty, no resources, and no voice. And remember, the United Nations' role here is reduced to handing out aid. Not guaranteeing rights. Not ensuring sovereignty. Just humanitarian band-aids on an open wound. What about the bigger picture? This deal, if forced through, will not just impact Gaza. It will reshape the entire Middle East for decades. It deepens the divide, fuels anger, and ensures that the dream of genuine peace is pushed further away. Because no peace built on injustice can survive. History teaches us, whenever people are stripped of their dignity, their land, and their rights, resistance always rises. The Palestinians have endured 75 years of dispossession. They have survived occupation, exile, siege, and war. Do you think they will suddenly give up because Trump and Blair signed a piece of paper? Impossible. Real peace will only come when Palestinians are recognized as equal partners, with full sovereignty, with control over their own land, borders, and resources. Until then, every so-called deal is nothing but an extension of occupation. So I say this today, the world may clap, the leaders may smile, but the people know the truth. This is not peace. This is theft, dressed in the language of diplomacy. And to my viewers, remember, truth cannot be silenced. It is our duty to expose what is hidden, to stand with justice, and to refuse the normalization of oppression. That's all for today. Thank you for listening. Stay strong, stay informed. Until next time. Music outro.